Nick Theos from Mikelson Yachts, PJ Sullivan from Mikelson Yachts, and welcome to the Mikelson Yacht Show. And we're very happy to have world-renowned naval architect Robert Ullberg with us today. Robert has been working with Mikelson Yachts for many, many years, at least since 2006 directly. And we've got you out here in San Diego working on a project. We thought we'd grab you, spend some time with you. Can you tell us about how you got into the naval architecture industry and how you ended up with Tom Fexus and with Mikelson Yachts?
It's a twisted story, but when I went into university, I was studying mechanical engineering. Yeah. But even before that, I grew up on the coast of South Texas, down in Corpus Christi on Padre Island. So I was always a waterman, playing with boats, seeing boats in boat yards, and I just was drawn to the machine aspect of these sport fishing boats. And back in the day, when I was young, Bertram was king in Texas. So of course, it was very, obviously very masculine, and everybody's chasing speed. So for a young boy, that's where it's at. Yeah. Some have motorcycles, and some have cars, and for me it was boats. And so I just really grew up with it. And of course, like most people, I think you're introduced to Tom Fexus through the Power and Motor Yacht, reading the Spectator articles, sure, which were funny, but I was a little too young to get Tom's, seriously inside jokes, and quips. But it brought the name to me. And then, of course, when the Southern Cross had started campaigning in the United States, that really got my attention. And what really made me want to go and work for Tom at that time was when we fished a Blue Marlin tournament in South Texas, and the Southern Cross was there. It was her debut. So, of course, Bertram, Hatteras, Ocean Yachts, and Striker. They even had a couple strikers there on that day. We're all watching, and we're thinking, okay, here's this big mouth Aussie. Wants to blow us all out of the bloody water. Well, let's go. And in South Texas, you do, back then, of course, you line up before the start. It's a Bimini start. And so, of course, we're all jockeying to get closer and closer and closer to see this boat. And, of course, they call go, go, go. And the Southern Cross, you have to be honest, she just left us. I mean, it walked away from us, and we thought, okay. I mean, there's a lot of smoke. But and all we saw was transom and smoke type of thing. And my father and I looked at each other at the same time, and I said, that's where I need to be. That's it right there. And so didn't know much about Tom. Like I said, wasn't a devotee of the article or anything like that. But for what I wanted to do, and I've always been a sport fish guy, I've always wanted to improve that style of boat. Because I like to say that sport fishing boats, if they're used truly as sport fishing boats, are only second to patrol boats in the way that they're treated and run and hard. I mean, you're in a tournament situation and you have to get back to a dock, let's say, for example. You're running against the clock. They will push that boat as hard as they need to push that boat. You've got a lot of money on the line. So it all came down to sort of still back to the mechanical side of it. How can we make them better? Not necessarily more efficient, but stronger. How can we get more power? How can we get more speed and still stay together? And South Texas is a good proving ground. Where I grew up, Port Aransas, Corpus Christi. It's a nasty sea because the whole Gulf of Mexico just comes in there, and the waves are steep. And they're not friendly on bad days. Obviously, none of them are. But it's a good proving ground. And so it was good for me to say, I can go to any number of boat yards there and see all kinds of different boats. What was wrong? What happened? How can we fix it? In my mind, I'm thinking, how can you make that better? So, of course, going through university, I was still writing letters to Tom. How can I come and work for you? And of course, Tom would say, it's 95% drawing. You know that, right? It's not hanging out in Miami.
And literally back in those days, I mean, Tom was hand drawing.
They were all hand drawn. They were hand drawn until I left. I mean, they didn't start, AutoCAD and computer. We had one computer in the office, and it was a Radio Shack TRS 80, and you still had to put the 5 1/4 drive in the machine and do all of our calculations. They're the exact same calculations today, But now, of course, it's all on, been rewritten in different types of codes, but it's the same numbers, it's the same calculation.
That's amazing. That wasn't that long ago. I think how far we've come in 15 years or so.
So real quick, you had your formal education, which was where?
Formal education started at Texas A&M University.
Okay.
It was 2 years through that and mechanical engineering program, and then we went to Maine for the summer. My parents had some business there, and I met Bob Hinckley at a dinner party. And we started talking about
Famed Hinckley.
Of Hinckley, yeah. The Bob Hinckley. And so we started talking about boats and what I wanted to do. I was all excited. Someday. He's like, well, what in the hell are you doing smack in the middle of Texas?
Yeah.
There's no boats there.
Yeah,
what are you doing, man? What are you doing? And it really shed a light, And he said, you need to be here. I said, well, excuse me, but it's my first time in Maine. I don't know anything. I didn't even know you had a university here. I'm in Southwest Harbor, Northeast Harbor. This is absolutely beautiful. We're in August.
Yeah.
Don't forget, it's August. Okay. Absolutely beautiful. And he said, okay, let's think about this. So lo and behold, he talked to the Dean of Engineering at University of Maine, Orono. And long story short, they said, we've already pulled your transcripts from A&M. You're going to lose this. You lose all your humanities, of course.
Yeah.
I said, well, that's how engineers keep their GPA up in their first few years anyway. So they said, well, we'd love to have you come up. So I went home, packed up my car, literally packed up my old Saab, and drove it from South Texas to Maine. Yeah.
So you did
GPS, no cell phone, no nothing.
Thomas guide.
I had a triptych from AAA, no kidding.
Yeah.
And then I knew, okay, now I'm closer to the water. So now in the weekends it's straight on down to
actually go look at what you're going to be designing
and seeing lobster boats for the first time.
Yeah.
Seeing all kinds of different boats. New England is covered with that sort of thing.
Sure.
So I was just had
so
great.
Texas A&M to Maine.
Texas A&M to Maine, and graduated Maine.
Yeah.
And the spring of my last year was still sending drawings to Tom, sending letters to him. And basically, if you watered it all down, it's like, what do I have to do to come and work for Tom Texas Yacht Design? So we met at Miami Boat Show, 1991. No, it'd been 1991. On a Mikelson, so to speak. That's when I met Dick Peterson.
Okay.
He's looking at me like, well, who's this guy?
Little did you know.
Yeah, sat down with Tom on the boat, and similar to this, and he said, well, one of my guys is leaving to go work for his family business in California, and you're welcome to take that spot and see what you got. So I said, okay. That was that. So that was February that year. So I said, well, I've got spring break coming up. Can I come down for spring break? He's like, we want to come down to spring break. I said, I'm here to work.
And this is
in Stewart?
This is in Stewart.
Stewart, Florida.
Yeah, okay. So I went to Stewart. He goes, well, listen, where are you going to stay? I said, I'll stay at a hotel. There's a hotel right behind the office. I'll stay there for a week. Because I can't, I can't pay you. And I said, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I want to get in as soon as I possibly can.
Nice.
And so I spent my spring break, senior year, right, in that office with all the guys kind of showing me around, and keep looking at that TRS 80, and it's like, all right, this is right. But the beautiful part of it was quiet. Everybody had a drafting table. They're working and focused. There were no cubicles. It was a wide open place, and it just felt right. It really did.
So we were talking about this before. And everybody has different philosophies on naval architecture and how to design a boat and what a boat should be able to do. What was kind of Tom's ideas, especially towards going from the Midnight Lace into Mikelson Yachts, and kind of where you've kind of directed us?
If you look closely at the design, and not so much the design, but the naval architecture, and it really comes down to the hull shape.
Right. So
the Midnight Lace, very light, very simple, very slippery. Okay, but it's not a deep V. It's not a flat bottom with a fin and keel or anything like that. It's a very slippery shape, and tank test numbers will prove that too. It's just very slippery. So that's always been his concept, and then even like the Blue Water, the Fexus 42, that was the first one, right? same shape, almost exact.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
almost a midnight lace
Similar
bottom.
lines.
Yeah, almost. And it just kept going from there. And so I think, I don't know which Mikelson or one of the first, when they went to a hard chine that had to be added, and maybe it was because of speed, because those round bilge hulls, they're not,
Well, they were
they're not
skinny.
high speed and they're thin.
And we wanted to get a wider boat.
And they were going to be heavier. And so, of course, that was sort of the morphing of the current hull.
So if you look at our 48, which became our 50 design, that's got more of a soft chine. And then
Right.
Tom designed the 43 knowing that that was going to be his personal boat, that he was going to buy a hull number 2, so I got to believe that he spent maybe a little bit of extra time on that particular design. And that whole design is now still being used on our new Gen 3 45 and our new Maverick. So that's pretty special whole design. But that design had a harder chine for sure.
It did.
And
It did, because it was a little bit newer,
Yeah.
and then as you move along in years, hopefully you're learning as you're
Yeah,
going,
of course.
and you're always changing.
tweaking stuff. Yeah.
But the core philosophy has always been the same, and one of the toughest to get past is obviously weight control.
Yeah.
Because these boats do get heavier and heavier and heavier, and not necessarily because of manufacturing, but it's people want more. They want equipment, they want speed, bigger
Well,
engines.
There were no gyros around.
No
15
gyros.
minutes ago.
Well, yeah, exactly. And how did we ever do that?
Well, not just weight control, but weight placement. So, we were talking earlier about Mikelson Yachts is a revolution in design.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at our design and you compare it to almost any of the sport fish competitors out there, we've got our fixed weight, our engines aft,
That's right.
our variable weight, our fuel is right in the center of gravity. And so that, I still don't see really anybody else doing it that way. So our design really is pretty unique, and it makes a lot of sense for some reasons that I hope you'll.
And
hit on.
it's the way to do it. If you're looking at it from a numbers perspective,
Mhm.
I mean, if the lace was the same way. The 2 little engines under the cockpit, and then you had fuel, and all the consumables were as close to the center of gravity of the boat as possible, so that it doesn't come up and when you're light on fuel or heavy on fuel, the boat's still level.
You don't have trim issues.
Or trim issues. You don't
Yeah.
have trim issues, and you don't have running trim issues, because as you're burning fuel, the boat's getting lighter. But it's not as you're burning fuel, you have less weight in the back.
Right.
The East Coast, and I'm sure somebody can throw a rock at this if they want to, but the East Coast guys just want to be close to the water. And if you think about it, they sort of started like that. I mean, early work boats, very, very low to the water.
Yeah.
So that's their mindset. So Tom was not a sport fisherman. He kind of thought, it's kind of silly. You drive around all day looking for a fish.
Yeah.
And,
Well, you can
let's
read
just
his
relax.
Power and Motor Yacht.
You can read his magazine.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
and
I
you can-
should have said that.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I just love him. And he goes, okay, well, you're the sport fish guy then. That's
Yeah.
fine. So I was the sport fish guy in the office. And even though there were other guys that all liked fishing, that was what I wanted to do. Please don't give me an motor yacht or things like that. Because my head was just like here.
Yeah.
This type
You had
of
a
thing.
passion, and
that's
that
the
was
life
good,
I
yeah.
wanted to live. That's the boats I wanted to be associated with, and all of that.
Yeah.
So as a matter of fact, the 43 was my first real project where they said, okay, this is you. So hull lines drawing, not the hull lines. That was Tom. On the weekends would come in, nobody there. It's quiet. Again, Tom was funny and all that, but he had a quiet side. And of course, I was there every day, because if we didn't have anything to do, I'd go in on the weekends and I would go through the archive, pull okay, that boat looks interesting. So I'd pull the tube, I'd lay out all the drawings, and I just want to learn everything there is about it. Even to the point where, okay, at this office, how do we do our dimensioning? How do we do the script? To look like a Fex's drawing?
Yeah, sure.
That could have been done by any number of us. I
Yeah.
think there were 5 or 6 of us then. But how do I do mine so that it looks like a Fex's drawing?
Yeah.
That's what it was. And then of course, you study the guts out of it. Is how did you do this and how did you do that? Because that's what I wanted to do. And so Tom would be in there working, and sometimes he'd come in and see me, and I would almost feel like I should leave. It's like the guy just wants to be here. The phone's not ringing, no drama or anything. He just wants to go. But
Well, keeping the boats that Fex's designed originally, that we've been building for a long time, that you've taken the reins on now. And years ago, the three of us worked a lot on like the Gen 2 windowing on a 43 and a 50 and a 57, which we're aboard now, which kept, it's still a Mikelson, but we kind of cleaned it up after a few years and modernized it.
Right.
And that kind of brings us into the Nomad, or the Maverick, our latest model, which you did all the design work on the top side.
And what's nice about the Maverick project, and when it came along, was good because obviously the three of us had a good rapport. And for me, because like I said, when I started doing the Mikelson work, I told myself, this is not your opportunity to change Mikelson. This is not, let's try this look, because two things I thought would be against me, being an East Coast guy. Okay, let's not put a black mask. Let's not do that. And I know I kind of tease you guys about, we got to get a mid-engine boat here. You've got to get a low cockpit boat. Let's get that 64 back in the water. Let's do a new 64, something like that. But at the same time, we can never lose this concept. There's a couple of reasons. It works.
Yeah,
it really works, and you don't want to take away too much from what Tom originally wanted to do.
Yeah, that's who Mikelson Yachts is.
Yeah. So, and I always want to respect that.
Yeah, we all.
Never an opportunity where I think, I could change this. And it does go through my head. It's the weirdest thing. What if Tom was standing here watching me do this? Would I get a... No, kid, you can't do that. You just can't do that.
I like to think he's pretty proud of where things have gone.
I would like to think he is. Yeah, and I think he's got people that really do love him, and they really do like what he does, and the way he did it. He was just a super nice guy, but he had all the street cred you could ever want, but never really wore it out on his sleeve. And he didn't like to go into these award ceremonies and boat shows. He just walked around and look at boats.
Sure. One of the things that really sticks out in my mind is that when Nick and I met you at the Palm Beach show years ago now, and we had a 43 in the show, and it was interesting because there's a Mikelson 43, and then there's all these Vikings and Hatteras and Bertrams, and great boats, but they all look the same. They're just kind of cookie cutter.
That's the problem.
That's the problem. And it was interesting because people would walk by our boat and they'd go, well, that looks unique. What is that? That's interesting. And sometimes it took a little bit of talking to actually get them to come on the boat. Right. But it was really interesting to me because if we got them on the boat, they'd walk in the salon and go, wow, this is, holy shit, this is amazing. Right. And it's just so much more. I mean, because it was a 43 and it's got probably more space than a lot of our competitors, 48s, 50s. Of course. And so they were blown away. And it's that form and function balance that I think Tom did a great job on. And yeah, our boats have a unique look, which I absolutely love. And there is going to be a segment of the market, the hardcore sport fishing guys that want to tournament fish that might never buy a Mikelson.
That's fine.
And that's fine.
Sure.
But for our niche, they're so versatile. They're fuel efficient. They're comfortable. They handle well. They're comfortable to stay on.
And they are easy to move around on. I mean, think about it.
Yes.
All these East Coast boats. And I'm not trying to poo-poo East Coast boats.
No, they have their,
yeah. 95% of the boats I do are East Coast boats. Yeah. It's all the same mantra. So, and I'm kind of proud of the fact that I haven't tried to move that over here. I mean, granted, there's a lot of aft cockpit, low cockpit boats around here too. Sure. But this concept just seems to be clever. And it all goes back to, remember, Tom was not really a fan of sport fishing. Didn't really want to do that. His mind was the efficiency and the performance of the boats.
Yes.
Because right on back, I mean, you take this basic concept, it's a midnight lace concept. Mm-hmm. A step down in the salon, it's low.
Kind of one level throughout,
right.
Very few, ups and downs. Yeah,
exactly. Low center of gravity of the boats, which of course helps in the seaworthiness.
Yeah.
And engines are out there.
Yeah.
You're not chugging along and you don't have any engine noise right below you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not just for the balance of the boat, but the access to the motors, the heat, the noise.
You got the underslung storage area. I mean, as you go down the list, there are so many advantages to this design.
Right.
And, it's funny because I'll have guys come on and go, well, this is way too high out of the water to fish off of. And I kind of scratch my head and I ask them, I say, what boats catch the most fish, and it's the sport boats, the cattle boats that run out here. Yeah. And they're twice as high off the water, at least, so it's interesting.
That's why God invented the stick.
That's right, exactly. The gap.
And we can do it.
Yeah, but I guess some of these guys when they,
I don't want my East Coast guys to call me up like, what are you talking about, man?
It's listen, they have their place, and when I watch these videos, they'll be backing down on a blue marlin, and the cockpit will be full of water, and the guys love it, and that's not going to happen.
I see that, and I just cringe because I know exactly. We know
you're going,
what's below all that.
Yes.
There's steering gear down there. There's
Yes.
all kinds of stuff down there. And one of these days, one of those things isn't going to come back up. I mean, it's full of water.
A lot of water.
That's a lot of weight and
Yeah.
all of that stuff. So, but I guess they love it. I don't know.
They must.
It scares the shit out of me.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
One thing I definitely wanted to ask you while I had you is looking forward and ideas and future project. What you and I have talked about a lot of different Mikelson projects in the future.
Right.
I know we've got a big Nomad on the we've drawn up. I'd love to do one day. What gets you excited about the future?
I tell you what's getting me more and more excited is a bigger Nomad for Mikelson, a bigger sport fish, because I think everything is just getting bigger, right? But propulsion systems getting more efficient, and what I've been thinking about a lot lately is a new Nomad, but a big Nomad. So you go, I don't know, you kind of tell yourself, okay, well, 62 is the biggest one now. If you went 72, 75, what would you get? Would you get just the same stuff, only more laid out? Okay, that's not necessarily, innovative. So if you go to 80, what could you get?
Yeah.
And in my mind, you go somewhere between 80, 85. And now we've got technology to where we can go like a hybrid. Not a hybrid so that, it's just this tiny little thing, more like diesel electric. And the scenario that goes in my mind is you guys travel along here, and when I see the fish head boats going out, they're going out at night.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to chug all
Couple
night.
Knots.
Yeah.
Or,
yeah, well, whatever.
16 knots,
hull speed.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I'm thinking, I wouldn't want to go all the way to Mexico at night. I need to sleep. And I need, I want to be fresh and, ready to go in the morning when everybody's ready to fish. So why couldn't we do a Nomad that's diesel electric? And think about this concept. You can run on diesels all you want. And the East Coast boats would do the same thing for a different purpose, where let's run to Mexico on electric. No noise, no rumble, no fumes, no
just
whatever.
generator running.
Generators running, but they're going to be running all the time because you got the rest of the you've already got auto power. So let's run on electric at slow speed, get down there. Now, if you have to run around, maneuver, do whatever you want, then you have the diesels there.
Yeah,
that's fine.
If you
can put an electric propulsion package in there, diesel electric, and make hull speed, it's perfect.
Quiet as can be.
For me, for the East Coast, I want diesel electric because I want to be able to run 40 knots to get out to where we're going to fish. Okay. When we get there, if we're fishing live baits, right, I'm throwing around 2 knots.
Yep.
Okay. I can do that with an electric motor.
Oh yeah.
Quiet, dead quiet. Now, of course, there's going to be some people that are going to say, well, there's the engine that brings the fish up. Maybe.
Yeah.
But let's find out.
Let's find out.
Let's find out. So I can go, but let's say it's a 2-hour run out. Then I can fish for 4 hours and a 2-hour run back. Okay. I've more than doubled the life cycle of my diesel engines.
Yeah.
So your service points. Now you go to sell a boat that's, 5, 6, 7 years old, and the engine's like stupidly low. Well, what's that all about?
Yeah.
Well, because when we troll around, we don't run the diesels.
And what about those 4 hours of fishing where that engine's not rumbling below you the whole time? I mean, the concept doesn't exist.
And people don't want to go out in the cockpits. Oh my God, we're running downwind. Well, now it's just covered up in fumes and so on and so forth. Everybody's got their tick, right?
Sure.
And I'm just thinking about how can we do something new, but not silly. That's, you just don't want to be silly about it because then it's a flash in the pan, and and it goes away. So what can we use and proven technology? I mean, commercial boats doing it all the time.
I agree.
They're loaded. I mean, you look at these diesel electric magazines and these shorts that you watch. It makes sense.
Well, you said there's systems available now that are pretty much ready to go.
They're almost turnkey.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're having to have some guy put it together and say, okay, this is it, and it looks a little Frankenstein-ish, right? Now it's not. People have started to come around to it, and manufacturers, engine manufacturers, are pairing with electrical suppliers.
Technologies there.
And the technology is getting better every year.
Well, and I love the look
I mean,
of a big
crazy.
Nomad too. We've got some renderings that we'll
Big
put up on this
Nomad.
video. It's
And
a
I
really,
think
really good
now
looking
we can
boat.
really travel in that.
Yeah.
You know.
Well,
So,
one of the things that you mentioned, that just getting back a little bit to what makes Mikelson unique and kind of a revolution in design, a lot of these boats that we're talking about were designed for the East Coast, these sport fishing boats that have the big engines, they haul ass. On the East Coast, you run out to the canyon, a couple hours, and you haul ass back in.
Right.
And it's kind of almost a day fishing trip. On the West Coast now, granted, the last few years and stuff, the fish have started to come up, but back years and years ago, people kind of forget, but you had to go sometimes 800, 1,000 miles south down to Cabo San Lucas to really get into the good fishing. So we needed Tom to design a true West Coast sport fisher, which is really what a Mikelson is. When you design it to have the range to get down to Mexico from Southern California, and the comfort, the sea keeping abilities, because you're out there for 4 days straight.
There's a human factors effort that comes, much quicker to the surface when you're traveling that long.
You've got to design a lot of these more sort of trawler features, if you will, where you've got the range, the comfort. It's interesting because Mikelsons, they'll cruise along pretty well in the mid 20 knots. And the question I ask a lot of the clients and stuff, people that come on at boat shows, and they're kind of comparing us to some of the East Coast guys, is, well, yeah, your boat can do 40 knots, or if you go buy that Viking or that Hatteras, that Bertram, which are great boats, but they can haul butt. But A, when are you ever going to want to burn that much fuel just from a pure economic standpoint? And B, it's pretty rare that sea conditions are going to allow you to comfortably run that fast.
On the West Coast.
Well, even on the East Coast.
East Coast too.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. And a lot of guys, when they go and they, make a long run, they call it, we'll just 10 knot it.
Yeah. And so it makes a lot more sense to have a boat that is very comfortable at the same, if you're running apples to apples speed on a Mikelson, you're burning significantly less fuel. And you've got a hull design
probably because your hull was designed for that speed.
Exactly.
A lot of these East Coast, and I'm the guy who draws an awful lot of them. Okay, you have to design the hull for the highest speed.
Exactly.
Okay,
but you're giving up some sea keeping abilities at those.
Yes and no.
Lower
I think obviously your shock loading obviously goes up, and yes, those sea keeping abilities. When you say sea keeping abilities, has nothing to do with the strength of the hull or any of that.
No, I'm talking about comfort.
We're talking about comfort.
Dry
ride.
an
easier run.
Yes. Yeah,
Yes.
making it more comfortable.
Every boat has its tipping point where it's just, okay, this is a little fast for and that's just smart, smart yachting.
Yeah.
You just don't push it like that.
Yeah.
So, but because of the inherent design of these hulls, it is a softer ride.
Yeah.
It's a mellow ride, which is, it's nice. At the end of the day, that's kind of what you want.
Well,
going out, it's a drag race. We all know that. Everybody's just really hauling ass. Coming back,
Whites out.
I don't even want to think about fishing.
Yeah.
I want to watch a movie. I want to have a cocktail and sit here and just be nice and easy. Have a conversation.
Well, there wouldn't be guys on their 4th or 5th Mikelson that we've all built together for them if
that formula didn't work.
If it was no fun and uncomfortable on the way home.
Exactly. And again, you hit the button. On the East Coast, typically the runs to the fishing are shorter. Or they'll just move the boat so that it is shorter day to day.
Yeah.
Okay, they're not really travelers, sport fish travelers.
I'll watch videos in Florida, and you can see, downtown Lauderdale in the background, and the guy's reeling in a marlin.
You got to fish out of Palm Beach.
Yeah,
I've done it.
They're a couple miles
you
offshore.
Palm Beach, you're kite fishing for sailfish. You're like, let's go grab lunch.
You can't really do that on the West Coast.
You can go back in.
Yeah.
Have lunch and then go back out.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, and for us, so many of our clients are going to Catalina, and the Channel Islands and things like that, where it's
a different geographic.
It's totally. But you need a boat that's really comfortable to live aboard,
of course,
because you're going to be spending time on it, and that's really where we've done a good job.
Right. So, fantastic, Jane. And your client base proves it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for spending the time with us.
It's a pleasure, guys.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah, we're excited about the future.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing it. Big shout out to Jake for letting us sit in his beautiful Mikelson 57 for this interview.
And this boat, just for all the viewers, this is a boat that Robert and the customer actually had kind of interacted personally on.
Quite a collaboration on this, and this is probably the most customized.
Certainly the most customized 57 that we've.
Oh, certainly the most customized 57. And the interior is just, the leeches were just perfect about the interior.
Yeah.
Kinder really hit it. She hit it out of the park.
Yeah. Oh, it's a gorgeous
Yeah.
boat.
Well, when we got here, I didn't realize you'd never actually been aboard the boat, and we spent a lot
I
of
have
time
been on
putting
board.
this
It's my
together.
first time on board the boat.
It's a
I
showpiece.
get a lot of photos and running shots from Jake, coming back from Catalina, and they're beautiful photo. Let alone, the wake pattern looks perfect. It looks good. Okay, and I'm zooming in on the wake.
You have certain things you're looking at.
Catalina's always going to be there, but that wake pattern, I really want to study that and make sure. Does it make that a little cleaner? Who knows? But thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
Thank
It's been
you.
a real treat.
Glad you made it out. We'll talk again real soon.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Robert.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.